fellow Power Stone fanatics. Welcome to my Power Stone 2 in-depth guide. If you're looking to dip your toes into the world of Power Stone 2 for the very first time, or are a returning vet looking to shake off the rust, then buckle up and get ready and...
Welcome to the Power Stone world.
A brief intro to kick things off. I'm a lifelong gamer, but a first-time creator. Capcom has blessed us all by including the Power Stone games in their newest collection. I've been obsessed with this game ever since I first popped it into a Dreamcast over 20 years ago. And I've been praying for Capcom to show some love to this game. Our prayers have been answered, so I feel obligated to come out of the woodwork and do what I can to keep the hype up, get people playing, and give this title the renaissance it deserves. I've always had this problem with re-releases of competitive fighters. I want to get in there and play, but I don't remember the tech, the meta, any of the important stuff I used to know, and sometimes I never knew it in the first place. You jump in and you're getting absolutely cooked by a bunch of gimmicks, knowledge checks, and newbie crushing traps. It's frustrating. If only there was some way to get up to speed. I'm here to try and solve that problem. As of right now, information on the technical and high-level aspects of this game is almost non-existent. In the last 20 years, I've put an ungodly amount of time into playing this game, as well as other competitive fighters, and feel like I'm in a decent position to share some of that info with the world. This is still my first crack at making a video, so please bear with me. Okay, so I'm pretty sure some of you guys are probably saying, but isn't Power Stone just a casual party game to play with friends over some pizza pockets and Coke? I won't argue that this game is a blast to play with anyone, anytime, anywhere. But underneath all the mayhem and craziness, there is indeed a deep and satisfying fighter to play. It's what keeps me coming back after all these years. There is just so much material to cover here. Character-specific stuff, items, stages, and much, much more. If I tried to fit it all in, I would never finish. So in this video, we will mostly be looking at universal game mechanics starting from the basics and moving on up to advanced tech. If the response to this video is good and there is enough interest, I'd be more than happy to keep making this kind of content. Before we really get into it, a fair warning to everybody, this video is more intended for people wanting to play the game at a higher level. I won't be covering story mode, lore, single-player content, the shop, secrets, or anything along those lines. That kind of content has existed for decades already anyways, and is easy to find. Alright, now that's enough from me. Allow me to pass it over to my man Falcon to guide you all through the basics. Over and out!
My name is Edward Falcon, and I'm here to tell you about the basics of Power Stone 2. Like any fighting game, the goal is to reduce all of your opponent's health and be the last man standing. Everyone's health bars can be seen here. You have 4 buttons at your disposal. Dreamcast buttons will be shown on screen for this tutorial, but we'll call them by their universal names: attack, jump, special, and drop. Supers, or power fusions, as we like to call them, are mapped to the L and R triggers, but they can also be done by pressing either attack and jump or special and jump at the same time. Pressing attack empty-handed up to 4 times will make your character perform the standard combo. All characters have access to this, they do decent damage, and the last hit will always cause your opponent to lose a Power Stone if they have one. The last hit can be substituted for special instead. Sometimes this does more damage depending on the character. Either way, this basic combo is always good to use if you have the chance. There is a slight but important variation to this. If you press attack while your back is turned to the enemy, you will execute a spinning surprise attack. This attack comes out quick and is powerful, so use it if you are being chased and catch your opponent off guard. You can also attack in the air. Pressing standard attack will perform an air attack. The properties of this move varies greatly depending on your character. For example, some air attacks, like mine shown here, can combo into the standard combo if timed just right. Pressing special in the air will result in a head stomp. This is a very strong attack that has a limited amount of tracking if you are close to the opponent. Obviously, you must be higher than them and almost right above them for it to work. Landing this attack will cause your opponent to lose a power stone too, and you almost always have the movement advantage afterwards, so use it whenever you can. Pressing special empty-handed on the ground performs a big, heavy attack. Landing this attack fully also makes your opponent drop a power stone. If you are right next to your opponent and press it, you will try to throw them. If successful, press it again to throw them away. You can carry them around a short distance, but don't hold on too long because the opponent can mash out. Throws are unblockable even if your opponent is carrying a shield. However, they can whiff if the opponent moves out of range in time. Let us move on from hand-to-hand combat and get into one of the more interesting aspects of Power Stone 2, items. Items are what add spice to this game, so we don't turn them off like some games. There are over 100 unique items in this game, so we don't have time to examine specific ones in this video. Perhaps in the future, if the fans demand more. Instead, we will talk about how they work overall. Some items are stronger than others, but since there is no official rule set for this game, at least not yet, there are no banned items. Most items come from treasure chests. Walk over a treasure chest to open it, and an item, or power stone, will pop out. Walking close to most items will cause a ring to appear around them that is the same as your character's color. When you see this, that means you can pick it up by pressing the special button. If multiple items are very close together, the one with your colored ring around it is the one that you will end up picking up. Press special, and your character will perform the pickup, and the item is yours to use. You can only have one item at a time. If you pick up an item, even though you're already carrying one, you will drop the first one and pick up the next. Note that some items, like health restoration, power stones, and assists, can be picked up automatically by walking over them, and can be obtained even while carrying an item. Items that aren't automatically picked up fall into one of two categories: those with ammo and those with a timer. See the pink bar that appears over your character portrait when you pick something up? This is a gauge that tells you how much of your item is left. If it starts dwindling down right away, your item is on a timer. You can use it as much as you want, but once the timer runs out, it's gone. If the bar doesn't move, then your item uses ammo. You can hold onto it as long as you want, and each time you use it, the ammo decreases. Once your ammo is completely gone, the item is as well. Some items, like Molotov cocktails, are single-use, meaning you can hang on to them forever, but once you throw them, they're gone. Keep in mind that if you get hit in any way while carrying an item, you will drop it. Unless you are in 3 Power Stone mode, then you might hang on. Once you drop it, it might disappear, but it also might stay available for someone to use. So stay on your toes. Okay, so once you pick up an item, it's time to use it. You can either press the attack button or the special button. Pressing the attack will automatically aim the item at the opponent you are facing, so most of the time, you will be using this. Pressing the special button will cause your character to use the item in whatever direction you're facing. Unless you can predict where your enemy will be, avoid using this. But if you think you know where they're gonna go, it can be a powerful option. Lastly, pressing the drop button will make your character put the item down without using it. This is pretty situational. If you need to do a combo, for example, you can put your item down and do so. So now we know the basic controls and a little bit about items. Let's quickly go over a couple of things that are specific to team matches rather than one-on-one fighting. There are 2 mechanics you should be familiar with when it comes to team fights. The first one is reviving a dead character. In a team battle, when someone runs out of health, they fall and a timer appears over their head. If left alone, the timer will expire, and they will grow wings and ascend peacefully to heaven. Good luck fighting the rest of the match 1 versus 2. However, they can be revived if you walk up to them and press the special button, the same way you would if you were picking up an item. This will give a portion of your remaining health to your teammate and get them back in the fight. Be careful though, if you don't have any health left yourself, you won't be able to save your ally. You should always try to save your ally if you can, as fighting against 2 people alone is almost impossible in this game. The second mechanic unique to team battles is the team up attack. To do this, you have to go up to your ally and press the special button, as if you were going to throw them. However, instead of throwing them, you will use them as a launch pad to unleash a devastating, high-damage attack. The range on this attack is limited, as are opportunities to use it. Unless you manage to isolate and corner an opponent, they can simply run away, but the payoff is huge if you land it. Try out different combos to see what you can do. One last thing I want to go over in the basics section is timeouts. There is no visible timer during a match. However, if you choose to play with time, when there are 10 seconds left, the announcer will start counting down. If the match still doesn't end, meteors will rain on the stage and create a sudden death scenario. Everybody's health will be reduced to 1 pixel. Everybody will drop any items they are holding, and if you are powered up with 3 power stones, you will lose that as well. Now that the playing field is level, there are another 10 seconds added to the clock. First one who lands an attack wins in this exciting conclusion to the match. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I'll mention this even though it rarely happens. You cannot finish someone off with a throw. Even if they are on their last pixel, throwing them will not knock them out. So don't try to use that as your finishing blow. Well, I think I've gone on for long enough in this section. Hopefully you guys have a good grasp of the basics now, which means you're ready to get into the fun part, advanced tactics. And who better than the beautiful Master Ninja, Ayami, to show you some of the secrets to really mastering this game. Over to you, Falcon out!
What's up, guys? My name is Ayami, Ninja Extraordinaire. Do you fancy yourself a competitive gamer? Want to learn all the advanced tech this game has to offer? Then come with me as I take you on a journey to learn all the secrets of Power Stone 2's advanced tech. Okay, let's cut to the chase. You guys just want a tier list, right? Okay, here you go. Alright. Obviously that's not a serious tier list, even though it low-key kind of is. A proper tier list requires a ton of discussion, and I just don't have that kind of time in this video. However, what I can give you right off the bat, which also serves as a segue into our first topic, speed and strength, is a tier list of character movement speed, as seen here. This is based on real game data, and only takes into consideration running speed, not attack speed. But speed isn't everything. Characters with high speed have less strength and less HP. Here is the HP tier list for comparison. While moving fast is a big advantage, so is having higher strength. Strong characters can hurl boxes faster and farther than weak ones, and the 3 strongest characters in the game, Gourmand, Gunrock, and Galuda, have additional properties that you need to keep in mind. For one, they have by far the fastest throw speed in the game. Watch a comparison here. Number 2, they can lift and throw heavy objects, like the big icicles here, that other characters cannot. And lastly, they can lift poles right out of the ground and swing them at opponents, removing them from the game entirely for a short period of time. Keep all of this in mind when choosing your main character. I would like to mention that all this data only applies to characters in their normal forms. If you can find 3 Power Stones, you will transform into your empowered form, and that changes everything. Let's talk about exactly what happens when you perform what we like to call a power change. Every character starts the match with a free Power Stone. Falcon already covered collecting and dropping Power Stones, so we won't go into that here. But as soon as you pick up your 3rd Power Stone, your character will transform while they undergo their power change. Before we even talk about what you can do in this form, there are 2 important points to remember about the transformation. During the power change itself, you are completely invincible to all forms of damage. However, you are also completely immobile and stuck in place. This means you can use this situation to your advantage, whether it is you or your opponent who is powering up. The natural thing to do when you see your 3rd Power Stone is to grab it ASAP and beat down your opponent with your overpowered moves, right? Not necessarily. A higher level player may wait and use the invincibility frames to negate a lot of damage. Watch how I time this transformation to avoid an insane amount of damage from Falcon's power fusion. And what about the opposite situation? Your opponent is about to get his 3rd Power Stone. Do you try to run and hide? Maybe. But the transformation takes a long time, and because they are stuck in place, it sets you up for some potential free hits. Watch the same scenario again, but this time, if Falcon waits to do his power fusion, there's not a lot I can do. At the very least, you should be able to land a head stomp no matter who you're using, if you're close enough and can time the attack right after the transformation is over. Depending on the health remaining for the person powering up, that 3rd Power Stone can even mean a guaranteed KO. Do not get baited in these types of situations. Realistically though, most of the time you will want that 3rd Power Stone even if it means eating a hit or 2, as being powered up really changes the game in your favor. First, take a look at the area under your health bar. Normally, it shows your Power Stone counter, which keeps track of how many Power Stones you have until you get to 3 and do a power change. After you transform, it turns into this wonderful rainbow-colored gauge, which is your power meter. It will slowly go down over time, and when it runs out, you will change back, and 2 of your Power Stones will go flying out in random directions. While you're powered up, you have several advantages. You take 50% less damage. You can hold on to items even if hit, as Falcon explained. And most importantly, you get access to new moves, a power drive, performed by pressing the attack button, and power fusions, which Falcon already discussed. You can also lift things that may have been too heavy before. Some characters get additional benefits as well, but those will be explained in future character-specific guides. Now, it wouldn't be much of an advanced guide if we didn't mention meter management, would it? While your super meter slowly goes down on its own, using power attacks consumes meter right away. Using a power drive consumes a tiny bit of your power meter, while using a power fusion consumes nearly 70% of your power meter, apart from the secret characters Pride and Mel, whose power moves cost less. It's important to note that as long as you're powered up, you can still do a power fusion, even if you only have a little bit of meter remaining. This means for each transformation, you can do 2 power fusions and even squeeze in a few power drives, again with the exception of Pride and Mel, who can do 3 or 4. There is also a secret tip I want to share with you guys about power changes. There are ways to actually cancel out your opponent's power change and end it early. Remember the team attack Falcon was talking about earlier? If you manage to land this on someone who's powered up, it will cut their transformation short. The other way is with the gigantic hammer item. This bad boy weighs 100 tons, and it will smack the Power Stones right out of anyone you can hit with it. Be wary about picking up your third Power Stone in these situations. A final tip to keep in mind about Power Stones: at the end of your transformation, the 2 Power Stones that come out will fly in random directions. However, the Power Stones still must respect the terrain. They can't go through walls, floors, or ceilings. What this means is that if you can find a tight corner when your meter is about to run out, the Power Stones have a good chance of bouncing off walls and landing close to you to collect again. Try doing a Power Fusion at the last possible second. An opponent who's running or getting hit can't get Power Stones. Let me teach you folks now about character states in this game. Usually, your character will be freely moving around and able to do whatever you want. That is, until someone gets hit. It's important to understand the various states your character can be in upon getting hit and what your recovery options are. When you get hit, you will either take a bit of hit stun, only if on the ground, or you will enter either a soft knockdown or a hard knockdown state. Fighting game players from other games will usually understand what this means, but I'll explain how exactly it works in this game. Soft knockdown means you have the option to jump again before you hit the ground, while a hard knockdown means you will hit the ground, wall, or fall off the edge, no matter what. Every character can do a hard knockdown by throwing the opponent. And there are many other ways to do this as well. Too many to mention in this guide, so test out different items and moves to get a feel of it. After hitting the ground, press any directional button to enter a rolling state. In this state, you are invulnerable to attack and can move anywhere you want, and even pick up items that can be auto-picked up. There is 0 recovery, so as soon as the roll is done, you're free, and you can end the roll at any time by pressing jump, so it's unlikely to be trapped in setup situations like most 2D fighting games. If you hit a wall before you hit the ground while an aerial hit stun, you will enter the wall splat state. Your back hits the wall, and you slide down to the ground, where you can then roll away. You do have the option to press jump and get out of this state early, and while this may seem like a good choice, it's not always. This is one of, if not the most important states to know in the game, because when you are in this state, you become totally invulnerable to all damage. Moves that could do devastating damage can be almost completely negated. Take my Power Fusion 100 Flower Bloom, for example. Normally, it does a lot of damage and puts you at horrible disadvantage if you take it full on. However, watch how using the wall splat state can completely change the outcome. Get to know the properties of different moves and items, and use the wall to cheat your way out of pain. Now that we're speaking about walls, let's jump into some really advanced stuff. Fighting back with wall attacks, pole attacks, and invincibility. What separates the pros from the average Joes in this game is knowledge of how to get out of seemingly hopeless situations. The most common case being when the opponent is wielding strong items, or is in power change mode. Most power fusions have a little bit of lead-up time, where the user is vulnerable. If you can hit them during this window, you can usually cancel the super. However, sometimes this isn't possible, But that doesn't necessarily mean you have to take guaranteed damage. We just talked about negating damage by using the wall splat state. However, almost every character also has access to an invincible reversal type move, which is the wall or pole attack. You can use this to turn the tables on an otherwise hopeless situation. To do a wall attack, go up to any wall and press the special button while holding the D-pad to the wall. This will perform a wall attack. It doesn't seem like much, except for one very important thing. The first few frames are completely invincible. Think of it like the Dragon Punch for Power Stone 2. Fast and invincible startup, but if you whiff, you're wide open. This also applies to pole attacks. To execute this, you can either press special next to a pole on the ground, or while you are climbing a pole. Press special next to a pole while jumping to climb it, then press it again to do the attack. Note that Gunrock, Galuda, and Gourmand do not have access to the standard ground pole attack because they will swing the pole instead. This also applies to ceiling attacks, in levels where there are ceilings, that is. Use these attacks to get out of situations where the opponent is trying to get close to do damage. Even giant supers, like Axel's Wild Buzzsaw Power Fusions, can be countered in this way. I want to make a quick note on the subject of invincibility. Mel and Clyde do not have any invincibility on their moves whatsoever, which automatically makes them the worst in the game. It seems they are not even going to be in the fighting collection, so this is mostly for the console versions. I'm not sure if this was an oversight, a glitch, or if they thought giving them extra power meter would make up for this, but at the end of the day, they have no reversals and are therefore bottom tier. So great! We can use walls and poles as a way to get out of a sticky situation. But what if we're not near any walls or poles? There's still one last resort you may be able to use, which brings us to the next section. Pitfalls. Some levels have pits that you can fall into. Usually, this is a bad thing, as it results in taking a little bit of damage and losing any items or power stones you may have. However, you can actually use pits to your advantage if you're clever and know how they work. First of all, you can use the pit as a way to escape a super, as the damage taken is usually far less than what you would take from a super. Secondly, much like throws, you can't die from pitfall damage, so even if you're on your last pixel of health, you won't die from falling. Okay, great! So can we jump into pits whenever? Not so fast. When respawning, you do gain some invincibility. However, you can't jump or attack, and you will usually be too far from any more walls, holes, and pits. So be careful. It really should be used as a last resort only. Let's quickly talk about dodging before we move on to the next topic. It's possible to dodge attacks in this game by tapping in any direction on the D-pad precisely before getting hit. This technique is a little hit or miss, but it's most useful when trying to avoid hand-to-hand attacks. It's especially useful when coming out of an immobilized situation, like when an opponent tries to land a combo after your power change. Up next, we're going to dive into the nuances of items. An item can pop up at any time, and it's common for both players to be within range of it when it does, but the one who reaches it and picks it up first will get it. Be careful though. Similar to the vulnerability that a character has after a 3-power stone transformation, there is a window during which you can get hit. It's small, but significant. Because if you were in a foot race for the item, your opponent is going to be right next to you and in perfect position to hit you. Remember also, unless you're powered up, you will drop the item when hit. If the item is a power stone, every character has an option available to make you drop it. So unless it's the third one, the same thing applies. Even health items are not an exception. Notice that when you grab a health recovery item, the health doesn't come back instantly. A green bar will appear, and your life will slowly regenerate until it's full. But if you get hit before it fills up, the recovery gets negated. Only assist items and pets remain yours even if hit, so don't hesitate to grab those whenever you can. Usually, picking up items becomes a mind game, and the only surefire thing to do is to pick it up when your opponent is too far away to do anything. Some items or moves in this game can stun you in various ways, which puts you in a vulnerable and immobile state that you have to mash out of. Most stuns in this game give the opponent one free hit at most, as doing repeated hits will cause the opponent to fly out. However, being cursed is the worst state you can be in. Being cursed does a good chunk of damage, grounds your character instantly, and you can be hit again, sometimes looped over and over with the same curse. And if that wasn't bad enough, you also take a combo to finish it off, since you are conveniently on the ground now. Unlike something like the bubble gun, which can be hit repeatedly into itself, but leaves you in the air at the end. It's technically possible to do stun loops with any stun item, but it's much harder. You must time the next hit as soon as the character mashes out to stun them again. Otherwise they pop out, and because they can change their mash speed, catching them in a loop is difficult. The last point I want to mention has to do with the most important item in the whole game: throwable items. Falcon briefly touched on these consumable items, such as the Molotov cocktail. The reason these items are so important is that every level has these readily available, usually in the form of a box, cactus, or crate. So why is this so important? To understand that, we have to remember some important points. 1. 9 times out of 10, a person wielding an item will always beat out someone who is empty-handed. 2. All throwable items can be caught, and therefore thrown right back at your opponent. To do this, you have to press the special button right before you would normally get hit by said item. 3. You can only catch an item if you are not already carrying one. 4. Remember the startup time for power fusions? The user can't move and is completely vulnerable, which means they are a sitting duck for a box. Throw one at them to cancel the power fusion. This also applies to the slight pickup delay on items. If you throw a box at someone, right as they pick up an item, they will for sure get hit. This is very important for game balance to make sure the game isn't over as soon as someone finds the first really strong item or collects 3 power stones. Be careful about doing supers or even picking up items if the opponent is carrying a box. So boxes are great. In fact, there's really no reason not to pick one up if you safely can. But what if both players are carrying a box? Well, the most common scenario is that you throw it at each other. If the boxes collide, they will both break, and that's that. Usually, the person who throws first, or has a faster throw speed, is in the advantageous spot here. There's one last piece of tech with regards to boxes as well. You can actually press the attack button instead of the special button when you're next to one, and you will slide it at the opponent rather than pick it up. This is useful if you are very close to the opponent, as there is no pickup lag. and it's much harder to react. Also, a box that's sliding on the ground actually has more durability than a box that's thrown in the air. So in this scenario, the one who slid the box will come out on top. If both people slide boxes at each other, then both boxes break open. Use this knowledge to gain the upper hand in the neutral position. Alright guys, that wraps up the advanced tech section of this video. Even though we're calling it advanced, there is still so much more to learn about this game. Each character, stage, and even item has unique traits to discover. Putting in the time to learn them all will result in you being able to enjoy this hidden gem to its fullest. Thanks for watching, and see you on the battlefield!
Alright everyone, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed my Power Stone 2 primer. I wanted to add a final comment before we wrap up. Now that Capcom Fighting Collection 2 has been released, I know a lot of Power Stone 2 fans are disappointed, and rightfully so. This game is a far cry from the game we all remembered back on the Dreamcast. The only mode is a 4-player free-for-all. There's no true versus mode, no way to play one-on-one, no teams and no team-up attacks, no setting modifiers. The secret stages can only be randomly selected, weak training mode, and the list goes on. I started this project months ago with the intention of fleshing out guides for stages, characters, items, and everything else, but seeing the game release in this way has really taken the wind out of my sails. Nevertheless, let's see what everyone thinks. Leave a comment below if you want to see more, and who knows what could happen. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you again.